I was watching soccer highlights in my home office when my wife Meira burst through the door with a mountain of a man trailing behind her. The stranger had to duck slightly to clear the door frame, easily 6'4" with shoulders that belonged on a linebacker. His thick arms were covered in tattoos, and he wore a smirk that made my stomach clench. "Soren, this is Rhett," Meira announced, her voice carrying that particular tone she used when she'd already made up her mind about something. "He'll be staying the night with us." I blinked at her, then at him. Rhett Vossin. I recognized him now from the MMA gym downtown, where Meira had been taking fitness classes for the past 3 months. The classes that always seemed to run late. The classes that required her to shower there instead of coming home sweaty. "Hey there, kid," Rhett said, his voice a low rumble. He looked around my office like he was appraising real estate. "Nice setup you got here. Tell you what, why don't you run to the store and grab us some beer and snacks? I'll keep your wife company while you're gone. Maybe we'll have a couple of rounds upstairs, if you know what I mean." They both laughed. Actually laughed. Meira's laugh was high and nervous, but Rhett's was deep and genuinely amused, like he'd just told the funniest joke in the world. I sat there for a moment, my fingers still resting on my keyboard. The soccer replay kept running on my monitor, some midfielder missing an easy goal. I felt like that midfielder right now, watching something I should have seen coming sail right past me. "Soren?" Meira's voice had an edge to it now. "Did you hear what Rhett said?" I turned to look at her, really look at her. My wife of 8 years stood there in a tight black dress I'd never seen before, her auburn hair freshly styled, makeup perfect, despite it being nearly 10 o'clock at night. She wasn't meeting my eyes. "I heard him," I said quietly. "Good." Rhett clapped his massive hands together. "So how about that beer run? We'll make ourselves comfortable while you're gone." They turned and headed for the stairs. I heard Meira's heels clicking on the hardwood, heard Rhett's heavy footsteps following. I heard my bedroom door close. I sat in my office chair for exactly 30 seconds, listening to the muffled sounds from upstairs. Then I calmly reached over and locked my office door. My name is Soren Valden, and I'm a senior cybersecurity specialist for Hartwell Industries. I spend my days protecting other people's data from thieves and predators. I'm good at my job, because I think like the enemy. I anticipate moves before they're made. I prepare for scenarios that seem impossible until they happen. 2 weeks ago, I'd installed a comprehensive security system throughout our house. Hidden cameras in every room except the bathrooms, motion sensors, audio recording, all of it feeding to a private server in my office that only I could access. I'd told Meira it was for home security after a rash of break-ins in our neighborhood. She'd barely looked up from her phone when I explained it. Now I pulled up the camera feed from our bedroom. The image was crystal clear, high definition. No ambiguity about what I was seeing or who was involved. I watched for about 30 seconds, just long enough to confirm what I already knew. Then I started recording everything to a secure drive. While the footage saved, I opened my contacts and composed a group message. The first recipient was Rhett Vossin, Rhett's wife, whose number I'd found through a simple social media search. The second was my divorce attorney, David Chen, whose card I'd been carrying in my wallet for the past month. The third was a group message to Meira's parents, her sister, and her 2 closest friends. I attached the video file and typed a simple message. "Thought you should see this. Recorded tonight at 10:17 p.m. in my bedroom." I hit send. Next, I logged into our joint banking accounts. Meira and I had been married long enough that we'd combined everything: checking, savings, credit cards, car loans. With a few keystrokes, I transferred all the money from our joint accounts to my personal account that I'd opened years before we met. Then I froze her access to our credit cards and removed her name from the car insurance. The house was in my name only. I'd bought it 3 years before we got married. My phone buzzed with incoming messages. David Chen had responded first. "Holy cow, Soren. I'll file the papers first thing Monday morning. Don't do anything crazy until then." Vossin's response was more colorful. That cheating piece of garbage. Thank you for sending this. I'm on my way over. Meira's mother had written, Soren, what is the meaning of this? Call me immediately. I turned my phone to silent and went back to work. The house security system was more sophisticated than I'd let on. I could control every electronic lock, every light, every camera from my office computer. I could also change the entry codes remotely. I changed them all. Then I called a locksmith who specialized in emergency services. For an extra $100, he agreed to come out tonight and change all the physical locks. He'd be here in 40 minutes. I heard footsteps upstairs, voices, laughter. I ignored it all and kept working. My computer showed 17 missed calls from various numbers. I ignored those too. The locksmith arrived at 11:30 p.m. I met him at the front door and explained that I was having marital problems and needed to secure my house. He was a professional. He didn't ask questions, just got to work. By midnight, every lock in the house had been changed. I was the only person with keys. I paid the locksmith in cash and went back to my office. The sounds from upstairs had stopped. I checked the bedroom camera and saw that they were asleep. I spent the next 3 hours going through our financial records. What I found didn't surprise me, but it still made my chest tight with anger. For the past 4 months, Meira had been making cash withdrawals from our accounts. Small amounts at first, 50 here, 100 there. But in the past month, the amounts had gotten larger. Yesterday, she'd withdrawn $500. I cross-referenced the dates with her calendar and her location data from our shared phone plan. Every withdrawal coincided with her fitness classes at Rhett's gym. She'd been paying him. My wife had been paying another man to sleep with her. I printed out all the financial records and organized them in a folder. Then I made copies of everything and stored them in 3 different locations: my office safe, a safety deposit box at the bank, and David Chen's office, which I'd drop off tomorrow. At 3:17 a.m., I heard movement upstairs. Footsteps in the hallway, the bathroom door closing. At 3:45 a.m., more footsteps. The guest bedroom door opening and closing. At 4:22 a.m., I heard Rhett's voice. I'll call you tomorrow, babe. This was fun. The front door rattled, then rattled again, harder. Then there was pounding. Meira! Rhett's voice was muffled but angry. The door's stuck! More pounding. Soren! Hey, Soren, open the door! I stayed in my office and watched the front door camera. Rhett was wearing jeans and a tank top, looking confused and increasingly frustrated. After 5 minutes of pounding and yelling, he pulled out his phone. I watched him make a call, probably to Meira upstairs. Then he walked around to the back of the house. I switched to the backyard camera and watched him try the sliding door, then the basement entrance. All locked. He stood in my backyard for a few minutes, hands on his hips, looking around like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Then he walked back to the front and pounded on the door some more. Soren! Come on, man, this isn't funny. Open the door. At 5:15 a.m., a car pulled up, a small red Honda that I recognized as belonging to Rhett Vossin. She got out and walked straight up to Rhett. I couldn't hear what they said, but their body language told the story. She was furious. He was defensive. She pointed at the house, then at him, then pulled out her phone and showed him something. Probably the video I'd sent. Rhett's shoulders sagged. He said something to her, gesturing helplessly at the locked door. She shook her head and walked back to her car. Rhett stood on my front porch for another 10 minutes, occasionally knocking and calling out. Finally, he pulled out his phone and made another call. A few minutes later, a taxi arrived. I watched him get in and drive away. At 6:30 a.m., I heard Meira moving around upstairs. Footsteps in the bedroom, then the bathroom, the shower running. At 7:15 a.m., she came downstairs. I heard her trying the front door, rattling the handle. Then her voice, confused. Soren? Soren? The door won't open. I stayed in my office. Soren, where are you? The door is stuck. More rattling. Then I heard her trying the sliding door to the backyard. The basement door. All the windows. At 7:45 a.m., she started pounding on my office door. "Soren, I know you're in there. Open this door right now." I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a fresh cup of coffee I'd made an hour ago. It was still warm. "Soren, this isn't funny. Let me out of this house." I took a sip of coffee and checked my email. 43 new messages. Most of them from Meira's family and friends, demanding explanations or expressing shock. A few from numbers I didn't recognize, probably Rhett's friends or family. One email stood out. It was from Meira's boss at the interior design firm where she worked. "Soren, I received some disturbing footage this morning that appears to show Meira in a compromising situation. I need to speak with her immediately about her employment status. Please have her call me as soon as possible. Patricia Hoffman." I forwarded the email to David Chen with a note. "Looks like word is spreading." The pounding on my door continued. "Soren, open this door. I need to get ready for work." I checked the time. 8:30 a.m. I had a conference call with my team at 9, and I needed to be sharp for it. We were presenting a security audit to a major client. I put on my headphones and opened my work laptop. The pounding on my office door stopped around 9:15, right in the middle of my conference call. I was explaining a vulnerability assessment to our client when I heard Meira's footsteps retreating upstairs. Through my headphones, I could hear her voice, muffled but clearly agitated. She was on the phone. "Mom, I need you to listen to me," she was saying. "Soren has lost his mind. He's locked me in the house and I can't get out. Yes, I saw the video. No, it's not what it looks like. Mom, please just listen to me." I finished my presentation and closed the laptop. My team had performed well, and the client seemed satisfied with our security recommendations. Just another day at the office, except I was conducting business from a house that had become a fortress. My phone showed 68 missed calls and over 100 text messages. I scrolled through them while sipping my second cup of coffee. Meira's sister Jennifer. "What the heck is going on? Mom is hysterical." Meira's friend Ashley. "Soren, please call me. We need to talk about this." An unknown number. "This is Rhett. We need to sort this out like men. Call me." David Chen. "Don't respond to anyone until we talk. I'm filing emergency papers today." Rhett Vossin. "Thank you again for the video. I've filed for divorce and I'm taking everything. That man is about to learn what real consequences look like." I deleted most of the messages without reading them. The only ones that mattered were from David and Cass. Around 10:30, I heard a car in the driveway. Multiple cars, actually. I switched to the front camera and saw 3 vehicles. Meira's mother's silver Mercedes, her sister's blue SUV, and a police cruiser. This was going to be interesting. The doorbell rang, then knocking, then more insistent pounding. "Soren Valden, this is Officer Martinez with the city police. Please open the door." I saved my work, straightened my shirt, and walked to the front door. I could see them through the peephole. A young police officer, Meira's mother Margaret, and her sister Jennifer. They all looked grim. I opened the door and smiled politely. "Good morning, Officer Martinez. How can I help you?" The officer was maybe 28, with the earnest expression of someone still new enough to believe most people tell the truth. "Sir, we received a call about a domestic disturbance. Your wife called and said you've locked her in the house against her will." "That's interesting," I said. "May I ask who made that report?" "Mrs. Valden called it in about an hour ago. She says you've been acting erratically and she's afraid for her safety." Margaret pushed forward. "Soren, what is this nonsense? Let Meira out of there this instant." I looked at her calmly. Margaret Hoffman was 62 years old, perfectly coiffed, and used to getting her way through sheer force of indignation. She wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. "Mrs. Hoffman," I said, "I assume you received the video I sent last night?" Her face flushed red. That video was clearly doctored. Meira would never— "Ma'am, Officer Martinez interrupted. Let's focus on the immediate situation. Mr. Valden, is your wife inside the house? She is. Is she free to leave? I considered this question carefully. Officer, my wife is free to leave through any exit she chooses. However, she no longer has keys to this house, which is solely owned by me. She also no longer has access to our joint financial accounts, which I closed this morning after discovering she's been stealing money to pay her lover. Jennifer gasped. Soren, how can you say something like that? Because it's true. I pulled out my phone and showed Officer Martinez the banking records I'd printed. These are cash withdrawals from our joint accounts over the past 4 months. They correspond exactly with her visits to Rhett Vossin's gym. Yesterday, she withdrew $500. Officer Martinez studied the papers. Sir, these are marital assets. You can't just... Actually, I can. I handed him a business card. This is my attorney, David Chen. He filed emergency papers this morning citing adultery and financial fraud. Everything I've done is completely legal. Margaret's voice rose to a near shriek. This is ridiculous. Meira made one mistake and you're destroying her life. One mistake? I looked at her with genuine curiosity. Mrs. Hoffman, your daughter brought another man into my house and told him to sleep in my bed while she sent me out for snacks. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Officer Martinez cleared his throat. Mr. Valden, regardless of the marital issues, if your wife wants to leave the house, she has that right. Absolutely. I stepped aside and gestured toward the stairs. Meira, the police are here. You're free to leave any time you want. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Meira appeared in the hallway, still wearing the black dress from last night, her hair disheveled and her makeup smeared. She looked like she'd been crying. Thank God, she said, rushing toward the door. Officer, this man has lost his mind. He locked me in here and won't let me leave. Ma'am, the door is open now, Officer Martinez said. You're free to go. Meira stopped at the threshold and looked around. But my things are upstairs. My clothes, my jewelry, my work files. You can collect your personal belongings, the officer said. Mr. Valden, you'll need to allow her access to gather her things. Of course, I smiled. Take whatever belongs to you, Meira. Just remember that anything purchased with marital funds technically belongs to both of us until the divorce is finalized. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Soren, what has gotten into you? This isn't like you at all. You're right, I said. The old Soren would have quietly accepted being humiliated in his own home. The old Soren would have pretended not to notice his wife stealing money to pay her lover. The old Soren would have gone to the store for beer and snacks while you entertained your boyfriend in our bedroom. Margaret made a strangled sound. Jennifer's mouth fell open. But the old Soren is gone, I continued. The new Soren believes in consequences. Officer Martinez looked uncomfortable. Folks, this is really a civil matter. Mrs. Valden, do you want to collect your belongings now? Meira nodded and started up the stairs. I followed, along with Officer Martinez, Margaret, and Jennifer. I wanted witnesses for whatever happened next. In our bedroom, former bedroom, Meira went straight to the closet and started pulling out clothes. I can't believe you're doing this, she muttered. 8 years of marriage, and you throw it all away over one night. One night? I pulled out my phone and showed her the banking records. Meira, you've been stealing from our accounts for 4 months. You've been lying to me for 4 months. Last night wasn't a mistake. It was the culmination of months of betrayal. She grabbed an armful of dresses and threw them on the bed. I never stole anything. That money was just as much mine as yours. Money you withdrew to pay Rhett Vossin for sleeping with you. Margaret gasped. Soren, how dare you? How dare you? I turned to face her. Mrs. Hoffman, your daughter brought a man into my home and announced he'd be staying the night. She laughed when he told me to leave so they could be alone in my bed. And you're upset with me for objecting to that? Officer Martinez stepped forward. Okay, everyone needs to calm down. Mrs. Valden, please just collect what you need for now. You can arrange for the rest later. Meira was crying now, tears streaming down her face as she stuffed clothes into a suitcase. Soren, please, we can work through this. I made a mistake, but we can fix it. No, I said quietly. We can't. She turned to face me, her eyes red and desperate. What about our vows, for better or worse, in sickness and in health? What about forsaking all others? I replied. What about honor and cherish? You broke those vows last night, Meira. Actually, you broke them 4 months ago when this started. She finished packing in silence. 2 suitcases and a small bag of toiletries. As she headed for the door, she stopped and looked back at me. You'll regret this, she said. When you calm down and think clearly, you'll realize you're making a huge mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting you. They left together, Meira, her mother, and her sister. Officer Martinez lingered for a moment. Mr. Valden, I have to ask, is there anything else I should know about this situation? Any threats? Any violence? None whatsoever, I said. I never raised my voice, never threatened anyone, never laid a hand on my wife. I simply secured my property and my finances when I discovered I was being betrayed. He nodded. Well, you seem to have things under control, but I'd recommend changing those locks again soon, and maybe consider staying somewhere else for a few days while things cool down. This is my house, officer. I'm not going anywhere. After they left, I went back to my office and called David Chen. Soren, how are you holding up? His voice was warm but professional. I'm fine. The police just left. Meira collected some clothes and moved out. Good. That makes things simpler. I've filed the emergency papers, and I've also sent a formal notice to her attorney, assuming she gets one, that all marital assets are frozen pending the divorce proceedings. What about the video evidence? It's solid gold. Adultery is still grounds for divorce in this state, and combined with the financial evidence you provided, we should be able to protect your assets and possibly pursue damages. Damages? The money she withdrew to pay her lover could be considered dissipation of marital assets. We might be able to recover that, plus attorney fees. I felt a grim satisfaction. What happens next? She'll probably file a counter-petition claiming emotional distress or some other nonsense. Her attorney will try to paint you as controlling or abusive, but with the evidence we have, that's going to be a tough sell. David, there's something else. I think Rhett Vossin might try to cause trouble. He seems like the type who doesn't handle humiliation well. Do you feel threatened? Not physically, but I wouldn't put it past him to try something stupid. Document everything. If he contacts you, if he comes to your house, if he even looks at you wrong, document it all. We can get a restraining order if necessary. After I hung up, I made myself lunch and settled down to work. I had 3 security audits to complete by the end of the week, and focusing on work helped keep my mind off the morning's drama. Around 2 o'clock, my doorbell rang again. This time, it was Rhett Vossin, standing on my front porch with 2 other men. All 3 were big, all 3 looked angry, and all 3 were clearly trying to intimidate me. I opened the door, but left the security chain engaged. Soren, right? Rhett's voice was calm, but his eyes were cold. We need to talk. I don't think we do. See, here's the thing, he continued. You've caused some problems for me and Meira. My wife is filing for divorce, Meira's family is going crazy, and now everyone thinks I'm some kind of homewrecker. You are a homewrecker. One of his friends, a shorter but broader man with a shaved head, stepped forward. Hey, smart mouth, show some respect. Gentlemen, I said calmly, you're trespassing on my property. I suggest you leave before I call the police. Rhett laughed. Come on, Soren, don't be like that. We're all adults here. Let's work this out like men. Like men? I looked at him through the gap in the door. A man doesn't sleep with another man's wife. A man doesn't take money from a woman to betray her husband. A man doesn't show up at someone's house with backup to intimidate them. You think you're real clever, don't you? The third man spoke for the first time. He was tall and lean with tattoos covering his arms, hiding behind lawyers and cameras and locks. I think I'm practical, I said. And right now, it's practical for you to leave my property before this escalates. Rhett's expression hardened. You know what, Soren? You've made this personal. Meira told me you were a weak little man, and now I see she was right. You couldn't keep your woman satisfied, so you're taking it out on everyone else. Something cold settled in my chest. Is that what she told you? She told me a lot of things. About how you ignore her, how you spend all your time with your computers, how you haven't touched her in months. She said you're more like a roommate than a husband. And that justified taking money from her to sleep with her. I never took money from her. Rhett's composure cracked for the first time. She offered to help with my gym expenses because she cared about me. $500 yesterday, $300 last week, $200 the week before that. I recited the amounts from memory. Should I continue? His face flushed red. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I have bank records, video evidence, and a paper trail that proves my wife was paying you for services rendered. The question is, Rhett, what are you going to do about it? The three men exchanged glances. I could see them weighing their options, trying to decide how far they wanted to push this. You're going to regret messing with us, the bald man said finally. I doubt that. They turned and walked back to their truck, a massive black pickup with oversized tires and a loud exhaust. As they drove away, I made note of the license plate and took photos with my phone. Then I called David Chen again. They just left, I told him. 3 of them, clearly trying to intimidate me. Did they threaten you directly? Not in so many words, but the implication was clear. I'll file for a restraining order this afternoon. In the meantime, don't engage with any of them. If they come back, call the police immediately. I spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing the security footage and organizing my evidence. The cameras had captured everything: Rhett and his friends approaching the house, their body language, their attempt at intimidation. But more importantly, I'd learned something valuable from our conversation. Meira had been telling Rhett that I was weak, that I was neglecting her, that I was somehow to blame for her infidelity. That information was going to be very useful. The next morning brought a surprise that almost made me smile. I was drinking coffee and reading security reports when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Ashley, Meira's friend. We need to talk. Meet me at Riverside Cafe at noon. Come alone. Ashley Morrison was Meira's closest friend and biggest enabler, a real estate agent who specialized in high-end properties and considered herself something of a social influencer. She'd been encouraging Meira's independence for years, which apparently included independence from marital fidelity. I texted back, I'll be there. Riverside Cafe was a trendy spot downtown where Ashley liked to conduct business meetings and show off her designer handbags. I arrived exactly at noon and found her sitting at a corner table, looking like she was posing for a magazine photo shoot. Soren. She stood up and air-kissed my cheek, a gesture that felt absurd given the circumstances. Thank you for coming. Ashley. I sat down across from her. What's on your mind? She was wearing a cream-colored blazer and enough jewelry to fund a small business. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, and her makeup looked like it had been applied by a professional. Soren, I'm going to be direct with you, she said, folding her hands on the table. What you did to Meira was cruel and unnecessary. What I did to Meira? Locking her out, freezing her accounts, sending that horrible video to her family. It was vindictive and petty. I studied her face. Ashley, did you know about the affair? She hesitated for just a moment. I knew Meira was unhappy in her marriage. That's not what I asked. She confided in me that she was having feelings for someone else, yes. And you encouraged her? I encouraged her to follow her heart and stop living a lie. I leaned back in my chair. So you knew my wife was cheating on me? You encouraged her to continue? And now you think I'm the villain for having a problem with it? Soren, marriage is complicated. Meira felt neglected and unappreciated. She found someone who made her feel alive again. By paying him for the privilege. Ashley's composure slipped slightly. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her the banking records. Meira has been withdrawing cash and giving it to Rhett Vossin for the past 4 months. Yesterday she gave him $500. Ashley stared at the screen, her face pale. That's not what she told me. What did she tell you? She said Rhett was helping her with fitness training, and she was helping him with some business expenses. She said it was just friends helping friends. Friends helping friends. I put my phone away. Ashley, I have video of them in my bedroom. This isn't about friendship or fitness training. She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee cup. When she looked up, her expression had changed. Okay, she said finally. Maybe I didn't have the full picture. But Soren, what you're doing now, it's destroying her. She's staying at her mother's house. She has no money, no car, and her boss is talking about firing her. Those are consequences. They're extreme consequences for a marriage that was already broken. I felt that cold sensation in my chest again. Our marriage wasn't broken, Ashley. I loved my wife. I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for this house, her car, her clothes, her lifestyle. I never cheated, never lied, never gave her any reason to doubt my commitment. But you weren't meeting her emotional needs. According to who? According to Meira? The same woman who was lying to me for 4 months while she stole money to pay her lover? Ashley shifted uncomfortably. Soren, I'm trying to help here. Meira is my friend, but I can see that this situation got out of hand. What would it take for you to consider reconciliation? Reconciliation? I stared at her. Ashley, my wife brought another man into my house and told him to sleep in my bed. She laughed when he told me to leave so they could be together. There's no coming back from that. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. A series of choices over 4 months. And now she's facing the consequences of those choices. Ashley leaned forward. What if she paid back the money? What if she ended things with Rhett completely? What if she agreed to counseling? Then she'd be doing what she should have done 4 months ago instead of starting an affair. So there's nothing? No possibility of working things out? I considered the question seriously. Ashley, let me ask you something. If your husband brought another woman into your house and told you to leave so he could sleep with her, what would you do? She was quiet. If you discovered he'd been paying that woman with money from your joint accounts, what would you do? Still quiet. If he laughed at you when you found out, what would you do? I'd probably react the same way you did, she admitted. Then you understand why reconciliation isn't an option. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Ashley seemed to be processing everything I'd told her. Soren, can I ask you something? Go ahead. How did you know to install those cameras? How did you know to freeze the accounts? It's like you were prepared for this. I smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. Ashley, I'm a cybersecurity specialist. I protect people from threats they don't see coming. The signs were all there. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden interest in fitness, the cash withdrawals. I didn't want to believe it, but I prepared for the possibility. So you've been planning this for weeks? I've been protecting myself for weeks. There's a difference. She nodded slowly. What happens now? Now Meira lives with the consequences of her choices. She finds a new place to live, gets her own bank account, and figures out how to rebuild her life without using me as a safety net. And Rhett? Rhett is about to learn that actions have consequences too. Ashley's eyes widened. Soren, what are you planning? Nothing illegal, nothing violent. But Rhett Vossin made this personal when he showed up at my house with his friends to intimidate me. He's about to discover that I'm not as weak as he thinks I am. I stood up and pulled out my wallet. Thanks for the coffee, Ashley. And Ashley? Next time one of your friends is thinking about having an affair, maybe suggest marriage counseling instead of encouraging her to follow her heart. I left her sitting there and drove back home. That afternoon, I put my plan into motion. First, I called Cass Vossin, Rhett's wife. She answered on the second ring. Soren, how are you holding up? I'm fine, Cass. How are you doing? Angry, hurt, but mostly angry. Her voice was hard. I filed for divorce yesterday and I'm taking everything. The house, the gym, his truck, his motorcycle, everything. Good for you. Cass, I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. I think we can help each other. Rhett came to my house yesterday with 2 friends to intimidate me. I have it all on video. But more than that, I think there are things about your husband's business that you might find interesting. What kind of things? The kind of things that might help you in your divorce proceedings. Are you free tonight? I'd like to show you some information I've gathered. We agreed to meet at a restaurant across town. I spent the rest of the afternoon preparing a presentation that would have made my corporate clients proud. Cass Vossin was nothing like